Hello, my name is Georgie, and this is my screencast of the sound project. So firstly, the controls for the game is W, A, S and D. So standard up, down, left, right movement. It's space to jump, it is E to interact with jars, and it is F to interact with this door. So now I will also begin by showing you some of the sounds. What you're hearing right now is the ambience of the small room. If I go over to an object, like a jar, it will play different sounds. This is done by clicking E. Certain nooks and crannies within the level have insect noises, so behind pillars and in small corners. If you go near torches, you will also hear crackling and a fire-like sound. Now, while you're walking in stone and around level, you hear the standard sandal movement, footsteps. However, if you go into water, you start hearing footsteps that are water related, with splashing around you even after you stopped. There's also water drops all along the water, mostly in this corner and just outside of the tunnel. Now, as you approach here, you'll hear air coming out from underneath the door. Then you come over here, activate the door will open using F, and as you walk through, you get a notification saying that you have entered the main tome. In here, the organ music gets completely replaced by the drums, along with being a more fast-paced music. Again, you can jump into the water, walk around it. You can still interact with all the jars. And one last thing is that you can also use this ladder to climb up. Plays a different sound since you are stepping on wood as opposed to stone or water. And that is my level. Once you go back in, you get a notification saying you have entered the minor tomb, and the music has changed to what it originally was, the slower, more eerie music. While once you go out here, you get the more ambient. That is done using a trigger, and also whenever you step through the trigger, that's when the text will show up. So now I will show you some of the elements. Before we begin, there is a particle system that was implemented, the fire particle system on the torches. However, due to lag, I turned it off. Just to turn it on and off, you just go into it and turn it on and off like this. Okay, so firstly I will show you the footsteps system. So the footsteps consists of two parts. First is getting it working for the animation. So here within the blueprint, whenever there is a notify for footstep, it tries to see what is underneath you, and depending what's underneath you, it will play that specific sound. So since I have multiple sounds playing, so for example, if you are on a ladder, it will actually play the ladder sound and will not go on to the footstep sound. But if it does go further, then it will actually check. So it doesn't need to check what's underneath you if you're on the ladder, because it immediately knows that there shouldn't be stone or water playing. However, if that does happen and you are in stone or water, it goes further on and links it into the first person blueprint, where it will just play the sound based on, was it the ladder or the normal footstep that you're on. Next thing I will show is also the interaction system. So the interaction system is, as I said, all done using the E key. So for here, again, just like the line trace that we did for the footsteps going downwards, this time the line trace is actually going out from in front of you to see 500 units ahead. So here I created an interface system, an on-interact, since I have 3 different jars and each of them are different meshes. And not having to need to constantly check if it's one or the other, the third, and having to send a sound each time, I created an interface system where all of them will use it as well. All of the jars will use it at the same time. So whenever that happens, it will go through and it will send to the, if the object has an on-interact system, then it will go ahead and play it. So if I were to go into any of the jars, here they have an on-interact system which will just play the open vase sound. Right. Next, I will also show the level blueprint. This is the blueprint that I had created. This is the thing that changes the zone music. So whenever you interact with the trigger box, which is located inside the level here, the green lines, just as you are entering either through the tunnel or through the gate, you will hit the trigger and it will flip what's happening right now. Either one is playing and the other stopped, or one is stopped and the other's playing. This will also output the string saying that you have entered the main tomb or the minor tomb. Yeah. And this is the door system that I have created. Whenever you enter the trigger box for activating a door, which is located just in front of the door here, once you have entered it, you'll be able to activate using the F key. You'll be able to activate the door. So this will first play a matinee at the animation of the door rising, as you saw in my demonstration, along with playing the sounds, playing the stone door sound, and at the same time turning off the air, as the air sound is created by the pressure from one of the rooms trying to get past through the little gap within the door into the other room. So once the door is open, the air pressure is released, so there isn't any more need for the air sound to be playing. And now finally I will just go through some of the sound cues that I created. So the biggest sound cue that I created was the ambience, that is the small room and the large room. Small room consists of 3 parts. First, the ghost sounds that you use here, they're all valued equally and with just a random delay between 0 and 4 seconds, playing with just tiny continuous modulator to just affect the pitch and create more variation. Same goes for the slow and fast organ, however with a more emphasis on modulating the volume as opposed to the pitch. And finally just the overall ambient sound that is playing in the background. The large room, on the other hand, has a much larger selected. As this room has more stuff happening, there is now two looping systems. So that is the ambience loop and the fast drum sounds that you're hearing in the background. Again, I could have done this elsewhere, but I decided to use a continuous modulator so that I could adjust the volume as needed, and in case I were to ever implement a system for making it change the drums depending on if there's, let's say, dialogue, then I could affect the sound of just the drums. Next, I worked on the ghosts are exactly the same, except this time I also added in the male scream that you might have heard randomly throughout the level. This has half the same priority as the other sounds, so that it wouldn't happen as often, but it would still happen often enough for it to be a surprise. And the organ music was also replaced by the drum sounds. The drum sounds with, again, a pitch and volume modulator this time. Now, the footsteps consists of just a switch system. So this is the parameter system that whenever the event for footstep happens, it will send into the sound cue which parameter we want to play. So if it's the default or the 0, it will play the stone steps, and if it's the variable 1, it will play the water steps. I have 3 stone steps, again with an even priority, along with 4 water steps with the even priority. However, along with this, I mixed in the sound of walking through water. So even though there is steps, so the sandal hitting the water, there should also be, whenever you're brushing your sandal through the water, there should be the sound. So that is the looped walking through water sound that is playing whenever you do the steps. Okay. And the other one was the wood step. Since it didn't really need a line trace and only worked off the boolean of if you are on the ladder, I didn't have to tie it in with the previous one. So in this situation, I just created 5 different wood sounds and adjusted it with a random setting. I also adjusted the movement, so whenever you are on the ladder, you are walking much slower than you are if you were just walking. Next is the insects. The insect sounds is the ones that you saw the source loop of. Here I created a double random system, so it would overlap, so sounds would overlap, so you might hear 2 insects at a time, in a way creating as if they're talking to each other or even interrupting each other. So each would has the exact same setting for the modulator. However, the delay has been changed so that some insects would sometimes be talking a bit faster, and certain other ones, so they might overlap or they might not overlap, and then they are combined and output. So the open door, the open vase, what do you call it, project works again through a random system. However, here I applied a continuous modulator to create an increased volume. After importing the sounds into Unreal, I realized that certain sounds the vases were just a bit too low, so I applied the continuous modulator so that their volume would be amplified. And finally, these are all the different nature sounds. So here I created a system again with a delay, a loop, and a random for the air. However, this time I have all short, medium, and long sound files, so I created a different weights for each one of them. So the short one has the highest priority. As it's short, you won't notice it as much, but if a longer one would be on repeat, you would notice the pattern. That's why I decreased the weights of the long ones to 0.6, the medium ones to 0, and the medium ones to 0.8. Then the fire is two systems. So again, we have just the standard fire loop that plays in the background with two variations of fire crackling noises being thrown on top of that. So again, there's a delay, a loop, and a different modulator with a different pitches, with very harsh variation of pitches and a very harsh variation of volumes. Then this is the water drops. We have 5 water drop sounds. Again, 2 are subtle and 3 are sharp. However, I did have them all on even weights because I felt that it doesn't really matter which ones happen, since they are all short. So even though they are different style, you won't really feel that they're all happen that there is a loop on them. So again, I created 2 randoms, so that 2 drops might be able to fall at the same time. However, again, in this situation, I created multiple delays so that they wouldn't be stacking on top of each other each time. So that certain times there'd be one with a higher frequency and one with a lower frequency, along with the one that has the lower frequency also having a modulator applied to it to create variation with the pitch and the minimax, so that the natural ones would happen more often, while the unnatural sounding pitch adjusted ones would happen less often, but you would notice them a bit more. And then finally is the waterfall. The waterfall is actually just simply the sound itself being looped and put out to the waterfall here. And that is my project. Thank you very much.